Hey everyone, so we're going to be doing a step-by-step today on taxidermy and how to skin a crow for taxidermy. I'll be working through this step-by-step to show you the basics on how to best skin a crow. So what I'm going to be doing first, grab my scalpel. I use a Swan Morton 3 handle, and then I like 10A blades. It's up to you what blades you want to choose, but I just like 10A. Take that out, put it on your scalpel, and that's that done. Next, what we want to do is we have our crow in question, or beginner's bird choice in question. What I'm going to do next is grab a little spray bottle. I like to wet the birds to separate the feather tracks. It just makes skinning it easier on the first initial breast to vent incision. And what I mean by breast to vent, we want to go from the top of the breastbone, parting these feathers, work our way down until we can see bare skin, like this. Again, working all the way down until we can see the vent of the bird. The vent being the bum, just to clarify. Separate this so there's a nice clear parting. And once we're feeling happy with how the incision area is looking, we'll take our scalpel and take the first incision. I'm left-handed, so I tilt mine. If you're right-handed, do what works for you. Take your scalpel, nice firm grip, almost like you're holding a pencil, and just make the incision down the breastbone as you guide. You don't have to press too hard because bird skin is quite delicate, but hard enough obviously that you are making that first cut. And then you want to go all the way down in the best possible straight line that you can do, keeping the feathers out of the way and working until you get to the bum. Now, there's two ways that I do it. You can either cut straight through the bum to make it easier, or you can leave the bum intact. But for the purpose of this video, we'll go through it. Once we've got our incision, you then just start skinning. By that, I mean you want to pull the skin until you can see that little nice membrane, and then just keep going along that with very small incisions to separate the skin from the carcass. Now what I find with crows or the likes of corvids, they're quite nice to skin, they're quite forgiving. They have quite thick skin, so that you can be quite rough with it almost, and the skin isn't going to tear or rip, and it's going to allow you to really get the feel of what you're doing until obviously you're comfortable with it. So as we can see, the skin's just coming apart from the bird's carcass. And you can see here as well, I'm using my fingers to almost like peel the skin away from the body as well. And when we get to this part, you want to just take it away from the bird's hips and the bottom of the vent. And if we can see here, we see like a seam. That's where the leg joins the skin. So you want to skin down that the best that we can to free out the leg from the skin. So we're just working along this seam line of the skin meeting the meat, and we're just skinning and freeing that up. Again, you can use your fingers and be quite firm, particularly with crows. I wouldn't do this method so much on something with a more delicate skin, but you can be quite forceful. And as you can see, I'm just kind of peeling the skin away and pushing the leg out. So once we're at this part, we want to really push that skin down, hold the leg out of the body like this. You can get a knife, you can get your scalpel, whatever you're comfortable with. Meet the joint of the knee and just cut through it. This is going to release it from the body, separating it from the knee, and then we have our leg apart from the carcass. You can see that I'm skinning almost in like a circular motion, because once the leg's at this point, the skin wraps around it like a circle. We can see now that the leg is detached. Just want to tidy this up a little bit so that we've got a nice clean line to follow. Same principle as before, we can see the seam of the skin on the meat, and you just want to skin down that until we get to the bottom of the ankle. Now, some birds you can, again, give this a bit of a tug and it will come apart quite nicely. Others you do just have to manipulate the skin a little bit more with the scalpel. See, I'm pulling it and it's starting to come apart, but then once we feel a bit of resistance, you just want to ease that with the scalpel. Sometimes as well with birds or mammals in general, you get a bit of wetness from the meat. I use, it's like an absorbative, what would you call it? Sawdust? It's like sawdusty type stuff. I don't know what it is really. I just dab my fingers in it and it helps to just give me a better grip when things are a bit wet or a bit slimy. It's also quite good to block out any blood so it doesn't get too much in the way. Now that we've skinned down to the leg, you'll feel that the skin is getting more resistant to what we're trying to do. That's because we've met the scaly part of the leg. We've met this bit of the ankle. That's fine, that's where we want to stop on birds like crows. It's different on other birds, but we'll discuss that in later videos. Yeah, once we've met this part, as we can see it's bending like this, that's where we want to stop with the skinning. You can't go further than that, it will rip. So we just want to get our scalpel or knife and cut through the tendons there. And I like to skin up. I'd advise don't skin towards yourself, but health and safety. Separate the meat. Again on this side. Ooh. And there, it will pull away. Almost like you're inverting a chicken drumstick. I've seen that before. I get these wire cutters, or you can use a hacksaw, wherever mine is. And I just snip the top of the bone where the meat is. Just discard that. So that's one leg skinned. I like to then just pull it out so that the skin doesn't dry out, the bone doesn't get in the way, and then that's that side done. Now whilst we're still working on this side, we just want to free up the skin on the top of the breastbone like this, down the side of the thigh. It can be a little bit tricky to get in. It's just a case of manipulating the skin, getting that angle that works best. As you can see, I'm like kind of scooping and pulling the skin round my fingers to get a bit of tension so I can then skin the meat away, and I find that that really helps as well. Now once we're at this part, we need to skin down to the vent so that this again is nice and loose from the carcass. And what we're doing as we do this is essentially just following the line of skin against the bird's body. So I'm pretty happy with that once I've just freed this bit up. What you'll learn with doing taxidermy and skinning is that your fingers have to get into really contorted positions to be able to access where you want to skin. It'll get there. Just give it time. Again, pushing the skin away just because I don't want to blunt my scalpel too much. And then we do the same thing on the other side. that we've skinned the leg out, we're doing the same as what we did. We're just freeing up the skin down to the bottom here. Just want to separate that little bit of thigh from the skin. Yeah, so you just want to skin so that it's separated. Now that we've done that, we'll come to the bottom of the bird, the vent. We'll see that we've got all of the vitals here. We don't want to mess with that. 2 fingers either side of the bird's bum, the vent. You just want to cut through that. And that separates the skin from there. This bit can be a little bit tricky for new starters because it looks quite messy. It looks quite, everything's all jumbled in together. But as long as you follow the theory of the seam of the skin meets the meat, you can't really go too wrong. If you make a hole, it's not the end of the day. And it's all really about practice. Finding what works for you. As you can see, I'm holding the tail to bend it back from the bird. That helps to give some leverage to then separate. You will be cutting through meat. That's absolutely fine. That's normal. We don't want the carcass of the bird to be attached by this tail point. So as you can see, we've got like a little vertebrae here. You can either cut through that with a scalpel, you can get some scissors. You can get some scissors to snip it, or you can get a little hacksaw and just do that until you feel no resistance. You don't want to do it too much because then you will go through the skin. Again, it's more so finding what works for you and what you're comfortable with. Now that we've essentially detached the tail and the feather quills, we'll be skinning down the back. So as we can see, this is quite a nice angle. The blue bit is the skin, and then this is the seam that we want to be cutting down. So just as we did before with the first initial incision, we're going to be skinning down, following that line of skin, taking away from the meat. It's okay if you have a bit of meat on the skin like here, because once we've fully skinned the bird, we will be getting rid of all of that. So as you can see here, I'm just pinching the skin with my free hand, allowing me to see that white tissue, that white membrane almost, and cutting through that to free the skin away. Like I mentioned before, crows are quite forgiving, so you can almost peel the skin away as well. And then we just want to pull the wing back, opening up the armpit almost of the bird, and skin that. So as we can see, the skin's meeting the carcass there. We just want to slice through that. You want to be careful in this section because this is the part where quite a lot of skin meets in one area, and it's almost like a ditch. But before we do that, we'll just do the same on the other side, so we're at equal places with it. Again, same thing on this side. We just want to release the skin there. If your fingers are getting a little bit wet, just pop it in some absorbative. I suppose you could use flour if you don't have absorbative to handle sawdust. Whatever works. Cornstarch maybe. And again, skinning down where that skin meets the body. This red part, that's the beginning of the wing. This is where we want to be quite careful, because as we can see, the skin here, and the skin under this bit. I like to skin across the top first, just to free that up from the top of the shoulder where it meets the neck. Skin around here, just being quite careful. Rotate the bird as much as you need to. See, there's quite a lot of resistance on this front side here, so we can skin up the breastbone a bit more. Can bend that wing back, and then again just following that skin away from the meat. I like to skin it out so that I can meet my fingers from this part to this part, so that we've got a gap. Sometimes it's easier to do that than other birds, but that's the aim. So we're just manipulating the skin until we're happy it's in a position to then detach the shoulder. What I like to do is I like to hold quite a lot of resistance with almost popping the shoulder out of the bird. And then you want to cut into the carcass to where the joint is and just separate like that. The cleaner the cut, the better, because we want to leave as much of the front of the breast attached so that we can use that when making a form. We just want to be careful because, again, a lot of skin in an awkward place. There we go, that's that wing detached. So we just want to, again, free up the carcass as much as possible, trying to leave as much meat on the body as we can. And we'll do the same on the other side. Theme tune now.
I shouldn't do that, I should leave that in.
Yeah.
Everyone who doesn't know, I'm Alistair. I'm the man behind the camera.
Should we do an introductory video of you? Hi guys.
Hi guys, I'm the man behind the camera. Just do like little picture, put a picture up of me like.
Right, now that we've detached the other wing from the body, we're in the same position on both sides now. So we just want to follow that along, and we're going to come to the neck of the bird, and you just want to skin that down as best as you can. Again, removing the skin from the body, leaving as much meat off the skin as we can. But again, it's not that important right now because we will come to fleshing it. And like I say, you can use your scalpel to release it, or you can just give it a little push and pull with your fingers, whatever you're most comfortable with. That's the neck pretty much skinned, and now we're going to come to the back of the head. This is quite tricky, I'll be honest, because there's a lot of resistance. I find particularly with crows they've quite a big round head and not so much of a big fat neck, so it's really, they do invert in one piece. You can do a relief cut if it's going to be tricky, but it's not always necessary. I like to put the scalpel down at this point as best as I can and use my hands.
What's a relief cut, Sydney?
A relief cut is when you make a small incision either at the back of the head or underneath the chin to help take the head out. I'll do that in a more detailed video later. So I'm just using my fingers, really trying to get in and under the skin, giving it a little pull. But once we're met with resistance, that's when I'll get my scalpel and just start doing really small incisions to just help that skin move over the head. This is probably the most complicated part of the skinning, is trying to get the head out, but it's really just a case of patience.
Don't pull the head off.
Don't pull the head off. I've got a video about that. And manipulating the skin to get it to come over. Now, depending on how the crow has met its demise, it can be easier to invert some heads over others, or some heads are too damaged to invert, and they will invert, but the skull is not always in the best condition. So as you can see, I'm kind of using the beak of the bird to prop itself up, and using that pressure from the beak on the table to push against itself. Pulling until I'm met with resistance, and then relieving it with little cuts. And you basically just want to follow this process until the head comes over itself. Right, okay, that's what I'm talking now. Now that we're in a position to pull, we just want to gently pull, and the head will come out. As we can see, the skin has inverted, and now we want to skin the head out. So we want to start here, that's where the ear is. Gently start skinning that back and skinning around the head, just following it around. Again, under the jaw, freeing up the skin. Now that we've got to this bit, we can see the skin of the ear. I like to take that out as much as possible and leave it in attached to the actual skin itself. Some people cut through it just so it's a small hole. I like to actually just keep the skin of the ear attached. Just found it helps with the mounting process. Again, following that skin round until we get to the other side, and do the same with this ear. Again, cutting through that white sinew when it appears, taking the skin as far down the head as we can. This one is a little bit freezer burnt, so it's holding up a bit more resistance. Freezer burnt is basically when the moisture is taken out of the skin. We can rehydrate it, which is not a problem. Just means we have to be a little bit more careful. So this is coming up to the eye now. And we just want to peel that back again, because this is freezer burn, it's a bit trickier to see. So I'm just going to put some water on it, let that hydrate for a moment, and the skin should become a bit more pliable. Now that we're at the eye on this side, this doesn't seem as dry, so we can just start peeling it back and skinning it. You will see there's like a little rim, and we want to cut through that the best that we can. If you're in doubt, it's always better to cut into the actual eyeball itself than to cut the eyelid. I mean, avoid it if you can, because it can be a bit messy, but if you're not sure, you can cut into the eye. Again, just manipulating the skin. And following it down. That's the base of the eye, that's the eyeball itself, and we just want to follow that skin. Really, the principle is to just keep following where the skin meets the carcass of the bird, and you're separating it. You really just want to work at separating the skin away. Kind of almost like peeling an orange is the best way that I can explain it. Obviously not as simple as that, but same principle. Now that we've skinned the eyelids, we just want to take it down a little bit further, but not too far, because we use the original skull and we don't want to detach it from the beak. I do recommend don't have a freezer burn item as your first skinning project, but it happens. So that eye is nicely skinned. We can leave it at that part and just take the same to this side. So we're just going to be skinning now down the underside of the bird's head, where the tongue and the chin is almost. The birds have chins. Bottom of the head. you want to do like a V shape here and here, either side of the jaw, and then like a U. So you're doing that, and then that's cut through, you're pulling the tongue out, skin down to the back of the head, to the neck, and you're detaching it there. I do a scrape just to get that meat off there as well, and then with my scalpel I'm almost like pushing that meat away rather than cutting it, I don't know, and then it comes off like that, nice and simple. We put our body to one side, we'll just leave him there, and now we've got the head, the skin, the wings, the skin, everything is detached from the body. This is what we now use for taxidermy. Obviously there's a little way to go. We need to skin the wings out, clean the head, clean the skin, clean the tail, so that's what we're going to start doing now first. Whilst my scalpel blade is still sharp, I'm going to skin the wings. So we get our wing of choice, and again you can use your fingers if it's going to allow you to do it, and push down until we're at this point. There we go. Now we can see there's quite a bit of resistance there. We want to skin down where the skin meets the wing, just like we did before. Really, it's the same sort of principle, it's just on a wing instead of like a leg. And you just want to follow the skin and skin it right down. Now, depending on what bird you're doing, you can skin wings in two different ways, but because we're doing crow, I will do it the beginner way. So that means we're literally just taking the skin away from the bone. We're detaching the feather quills as well, so that everything is basically loose, and that we can clean the bone properly. Hold it with a bit of resistance, cut through that. You'll get to this point where it feels a bit confusing. What you're seeing is not always bone, it's going to be quills that are embedded into the feather. You want to detach them, so that's fine. Don't worry about that. So like here, for example, that's a tendon. That white bit here, you want to go under that and take that apart from the bone. You can do it with your finger if you find that easier. Just keep pulling as well, and take the bone right down until you get to the wrist. You can rotate it so each side is at the same point. Give it a good pull. You see the quills are a bit better there. You want to go underneath them and separate them that way. And that's this part where you stop at on the wing. See, it bends there. That's the wrist. You want to stop there. Do the same on the other side. Cue the music.
Beep, 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 beep. My name's Sydney, I'm a taxidermist. Do 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 do. I like to chop up birds. Hoo 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 dee doo.
Right, so now that the wing is all skinned out, we want to do the same concept on the tail. The tail's a little bit easier, it's less things to pull out. We just want to invert that like we have done other things so that we can then see it. We want to then skin down because birds have a It's almost like a sebaceous gland on their tail, so that's how they get their nice sheen. They rub themselves in grease-like stuff and preen themselves with it. So we want to skin past that. You'll see it's like a yellow bulbous kind of thing. And once we're past that, that's usually... Oh, I made a hole. Right! Okay to make holes.
Can you say that again for the camera?
It's okay to make holes on your first few attempts. Right! Little holes like this that I've done, you're not going to see. Please don't pull its head off, though. Right! Same action as we did before. It's almost like you're pushing the meat up and away with your scalpel. And then freeing up the skin. You don't want to obviously skin it too much because we need to keep this part in. That's that done. We now need to detach the meat from the wing. We'll start with the wing first, like we did with the legs, very similar. Just cutting through the tendons, pulling it back so that we're just left with the bone. I like to use like the back of my scalpel, can you see that? And like scrape as well. That I find that can be helpful. And then go in like that. And that bit then comes out quite nice. Just grab it with your fingers, give it a pinch, and then beep, that's all done. Cutting that away from the elbow. Again, just getting in there, getting as much meat off that we can. The aim of taxidermy is really to remove as much organic matter off the skin that we can, because anything that's left on can affect the end product of your piece. It can attract moths, leach grease, we don't want that. So really being quite thorough with removal of any organic matter. Again, we can revisit this, it's just whilst we're here. And then I like to leave about a third of the bone here on. You can detach it here, but for the sake of this video we're going to leave it there. Just snip that off. There we go. That's that wing done for now. Same again on the other side. So we're just going to do the same again, snip this off at about a third, leaving a third on maybe. That's fine, that's fine. And now we're going to clean up the head. You just want to take the eyes out. I like to give it a good pinch and then you can pull it out, or you can get right behind it with your scalpel and cut the optic nerve. Now, because this one's a bit freezer burnt, I'm lucky that it's not going to burst all over me. But if you're going to do this method, be careful because they can pop. There we go. Same again on the other eye. Oh. And then basically cleaning the skull is just getting as much meat off as physically possible. It's time consuming, it's tedious, it's boring, but it's a necessary part of the process. So we just have to do it. I just use a scalpel, or sometimes I put it onto my fleshing wheel, but since we're beginners here, you're not going to have a fleshing wheel. So you just want to use your scalpel and put as much work in as you can to removing all of this meat, this gunk, this nasty stuff.
Cut. Flash a wheel.
Whilst we're still taking the organic matter off of the skull, we also need to take a little bit of the skull off so that we can take the brains out, and then when we come to the mounting process we can put the form in there. So I just like to get my hacksaw and do a really small cut to kind of where the vertebrae of the neck would join, and we want to do a cut. Obviously if you are using a hacksaw, yours probably won't be 13 years old with the same blade on, so it will probably go a bit quicker than this. Once we've got to this point where it's hitting resistance of the jaw, you can either go under here, make like a V shape, or you can just pull it off like that. Whatever works for you. And pull it off. There we go. Now this is where we can see the brain. We want to get some tweezers and pull as much of it out as you can with your tweezers. It's going to be gross. It's going to be soupy because your bird has been frozen, and as we know, water expands, so it makes the brain go a bit gross. But you'll find the main cord in the brain cavity, and you can pull it out like that. Now obviously that's not fully clean. I like to get a little bit of cotton wool, grab a little bit of that, pull it apart, get it on the back of my tweezer, and push it in there, give it a little swirl around, and that gets any other remaining brain residue out. Obviously we're going to wash the skin as well, so you can give it a good old scrub in the sink, but that's just the main process of how to get the brain out of the brain cavity. I'm going to go back to cleaning this skull, and then I'll show you how to start fleshing the skin. I'm going to take this to the fleshing wheel, but we understand the process. It's picking, it's getting all of that organic matter out. Same with the tail, we want to clean that back until we see quill. It's almost like a sharpening action. Would that make sense? Like the way shaving action. You're going to meet resistance here because there's still some vertebrae in there. You can either get your little saw, you guys can get some scissors. I just got these wire snips, and I snip it out. I give it a little pinch. It's a bit awkward, but we don't want that bone in there. We just want these quills on either side that we can see. I'm so sorry if that got on you. It didn't. then if there is still anything in there, just want to grab that again, pull it out. There we go. When it comes to cleaning the tail, we want to get rid of this gland. That can just be cut off like that. And then I just get my scalpel and I literally just do that kind of motion and get as much of the meat and the fat off as possible, like that. Then we can see each individual quills. I then get my tweezers and I go in between them as well and clean it. Oops, don't do that, obviously. And we just want to do this on each quill, get all the fat and the gunk out from each one of them. So on that side, it's nice and clean. Was that the right camera? Anything else, you can just get your scalpel and pull it off. Again, we want to get the skin as clean as we can, but anything else, we can also get it off in the wash. I'm just here pulling off any of the remaining flesh that's left on the skin, because we don't want that. Again, I like to go with the corvid route as a first starter bird, just because they don't tend to be massively fatty. They have quite lean skin. The fat that is on there doesn't tend to be that tricky to remove, which I think as a beginner is a pretty good way to go. Way to start, because when it comes to fatty birds like pheasants, woodcock, things like that, don't start a woodcock, please. They're pretty tough with the amount of fat. As we can see here, the blue skin is the clean skin. A lot of this is just membrane, which we want to remove as much as possible. But as we can see, any of this like red meat, you can do like a scraping action. By this point, your scalpel will be a bit blunter because you've skinned the whole bird. I like to use a blunt scalpel when it comes to fleshing, and I just want to like a scraping motion with a bit of pressure, but not too much, because you will go through the skin, and just push away that membrane, push away that fat. You can go down the feather tracks and gently push. It's almost like at an angle your scalpel is, and you just kind of pushing away all of that debris. And you just want to do this until you can't really see any of this membrane, any of the fat. Anything that's yellow is fat. So as you can see here in these feather tracks, that's all fat in there. So you just want to get rid of that until we've got nice clean skin. And you do that anywhere that you see fit to do it. We want to get this skin nice and clean. Another way I find which helps release and open up the fat, more so on fattier birds, but I'll show you on the crow as well, because it's a good little tip if you get a fatty crow in, is you just want to do like really small little slits in between the feather tracks, almost like a crisscross action. That opens it up, and then you can scrape it out. You see? So you just want to do this for the whole skin until it's nice and clean, and then we'll work towards the washing process, but that'll be for another video's time. Now that I'm back from the fleshing wheel and I've sped up the process of fleshing the bird, we're now left with something like this. What I'm going to do now for you guys is I'm going to stop the video at this point. I'm going to place this bird in a tub of white spirits, which is a lot more accessible to get for you guys who are wanting to start. I'm going to leave this overnight. What the white spirit's going to do is it's going to help really get the bird extra squeaky clean, break down all those residuals, fat, grease, plump up the feathers, and then I'll see you in the next video to make the form and mount the bird. We're going to place the bird in some white spirit now. The white spirit's going to break everything down, and what we're going to do is do it skin side out so that the white spirit can get all the residual fat and give your bird a nice sheen. So we'll leave this in overnight. You don't have to leave it in overnight, but I'm going to do it for the sake of today. And that's the skinning process of how you do a crow for taxidermy. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow along if you've enjoyed the content today, and I'll see you in the next video for the mounting process. The website's linked down below. Have a cheeky look if you want to fancy anything. If you want any contact, see you in the next one, guys. See you in the next one.